After a while, the main characters get on a train that goes to an industrial city called Tauren. It turns out that, according to Detective Kyle's latest information, an illegal robot factory is located there. Mew and Renaud talk while Noah sleeps. It turns out that the girl needs more rest for her body to get used to the new world. Also, the cute boy reveals that Eleanor Asil's true body was hidden in the dragon's individual dimension. Mew manages to keep the dangerous criminal's body alive, but without a soul it is useless. Will claims that they tried to find Eleanor's soul, but they were unsuccessful. After the conversation, the detective remembers how the girl gave him flowers whose color was similar to the color of his eyes. When the main characters arrive in town, they go to the post office to pick up the detective's personal belongings that Penelope sent him. It turns out that when Noah got her real body, the girl was able to control the magic of the legendary Black Dragon. The couple is forced to travel by carriage to avoid being followed. Kyle notices that Puck is wearing a shirt and asks her about it. It turns out that the protagonist's true body size does not match Eleanor Asil's. For this reason, the girl is forced to walk around in a thin and loose shirt. Noah notices that the detective does not look at her and constantly averts his gaze to the side. She suspects that Kyle does not like Pag Noah's appearance and gets very upset. When the protagonist goes to bed, the detective enjoys the beauty of the girl. Suddenly, the man remembers Noah's appearance when she returned from her world. It turns out that Renaud was puzzled when he saw that the girl had naked legs, but decided not to say anything. After a while, the main characters arrive in Tauren. The young girl thinks that they will go to look for the plant, but Kyle decides to rent a room in a local hotel and rest for a few days. Renaud books 2 vacant rooms. The protagonist takes great offense at the man because of his decision. At that moment, the girl snatches the keys to her room and leaves. The detective is perplexed and does not understand why Noah is so angry. Suddenly, the innkeeper says that the young girl is angry because the man has purchased different rooms. Then the elderly man decides to help the young couple and finds a suitable room for them. Upon entering the hotel room, Kyle realizes that the old man gave the keys to the couple's room. A bed for 2 and a bathroom are in the bedroom. When the protagonist decides to take a bath, Kyle tries to calm down and stop thinking about strange things. At this time, Puck is thinking about the detective. The girl despairs a lot and thinks that Renaud doesn't need her anymore. She thinks that the man is kind to everyone around him and that's why he treats her so well. At this point, Noah decides to telepathically contact Mew and asks about the possibility of traveling to her homeworld. The cute boy claims that he is able to return the girl to her former life. Kyle notices that something is wrong with the Black Dragon and inquires from him about Mew's condition. The cute boy claims that Noah wants to return to his home world. After these words, the detective becomes very nervous. The man decides to talk to the protagonist alone and discuss everything. At that moment, a young girl comes out of the room wearing only a towel. The protagonist gets more embarrassed and sharply closes the door. Puck takes offense at the detective again and walks away. That evening, Kyle holds Maya in his arms and thinks about what happened. The man is very afraid that Noah will leave him for the old world and begins to feel very nervous. In the end, Renaud decides to sincerely apologize to the girl for his terrible behavior. During a conversation with the girl, Noah begins to claim that she has returned to this world only because she is in love with the detective. The man realizes that his feelings for Puck are mutual. In the end, Renaud couldn't utter a word and left. The next day, Puck went shopping for new clothes. When the protagonist and Mew left the clothing store, Noah discovered that someone was following her. Mew used the magic of disguise to make his mistress invisible. Suddenly, the girl crashes into a passerby and the man spills coffee on Puck's cloth. Because of this, the pursuers discover the location of the protagonist and plan to attack her. At that moment, Noah decides to use the magic of the Black Dragon and teleport to another place. The protagonist also sends a magical fairy to find Kyle and give him a message that the girl was attacked. Mew teleports the girl to the shore of a muddy lake. The protagonist realizes that there is an industrial area nearby. Noah does not understand how the enemy managed to realize that she is Eleanor and find her. At that moment she realizes that one of Largo's eyes is in her suitcase and the other was lost on the liner. The girl recalls opening her suitcase several times in true Puck form. That's how the enemy realized what she looked like now. The fairy informs that she managed to find the detective. Then the protagonist decides to give Mew Largo's pupil and send the black dragon to Kyle. After a while, Pack was able to find an industrial neighborhood. Many of the residents are sick and very poor. At that moment, a harmful rain of toxic waste from the local factory begins to fall. The protagonist decides to hide in a hotel to wait out the fallout. When Noah stepped inside, her disguise disappeared and everyone around her began to notice her. Puck notices a crossed-out mark on the neck of one of the hotel visitors. The girl decides to check with the other people, and it turns out that all the people are test subjects in Adrian and Eleanor's project. The pair begin to have a conversation. The protagonist begins to suspect that the young guy is a puppet because Penelope passed information to Kyle about the Minister of Magic arriving in the capital early and not being seen in strange behavior. Adrian pulls out a knife and cuts his hand. At that moment, blood started to flow and Puck realized that in front of her stands the true Minister of Magic, who is involved in many crimes. Suddenly, the young guy starts talking about how he didn't kill Eleanor. It turns out that it was committed by her hands. She committed suicide. Adrian recalls the days when he was in a relationship with a dangerous criminal. It turns out that the girl was trying to separate soul and body to break all restrictions. Adrian constantly tried to dissuade Eleanor to continue her quest to separate her soul from her body. The young boy tells her that the physical body can be healed, but the soul has no matter and cannot be restored if damaged. The Minister of Magic recalls that when the guy did not agree with Eleanor's opinion, the girl started beating him until he accepted her decision and helped to realize it. Adrian was strongly in love with a beautiful and wealthy criminal. That is why he could not object to her. Adrian tries to find out where Eleanor's true body is. The protagonist tells him that the body of the dangerous criminal is in the vault of Mu. At this time, Kyle and Mweil manage to find the main character's location and the pair set out to help her. Adrian tries to use hypnosis magic to disarm the protagonist, but with the help of black dragon magic, Noah withstands the flow of magic and ignores the spell. The girl calls for a fire, which quickly fills the entire first floor of the inn. Noah makes sure that the fire surrounds Adrian and he can't escape. After that, Puck goes to the next floor of the inn to scout the situation in the villain's lair. Looking for a way out, the girl enters the room and sees a huge number of robots that were manufactured with a defect. It turns out the robots are able to fully feel pain and emotions. The surviving robots in the pile have been forced to endure horrific pain. They ask the main character for help and the girl promises to come back for them. At this point, Puck is attempted to be attacked by a robot woman. The girl decides to use magic to give orders to the robot. The protagonist orders the puppet to bring her to the factory. After that, the robot throws its weapon on the floor and begins to accompany the girl. Upon arrival, Noah discovers Adrian's office. There was a small book lying on the bed. When Puck picked it up, she realized that it was the personal diary of the Minister of Magic. From the notebook, the protagonist learns that the reason for the breakup of the relationship was that Eleanor did not keep the promise she made to Adrian. It turns out that the young criminal continued to study methods of separating the soul from the body. She conducted experiments on her body and Adrian was not happy about it. 10 days after the breakup, the young guy learned that Eleanor invented a new method and tested it on herself. Also, Adrian's subordinate informs his boss that all of Asil's experiments were unsuccessful. The young man blames himself for not being smart enough, unlike Eleanor. Despite everything, Adrian tries to gather his thoughts and forget the difficult relationship with a dangerous criminal. Thoughts about his beloved do not give rest to Adrian. The man constantly thinks about his beloved and thinks of ways to get her back. One evening, a young boy came to Eleanor's mansion and happened to see Lenia Walter. Adrian is perplexed and decides to visit Eleanor the next day. Upon arriving at the criminal's mansion, the guy notices Eleanor's body lying on the floor. The man realizes that the drug that the girl took has worked. Also, Adrin begins to look for the core, which serves as a vessel for Asil's soul. During the search, the young man injures his arm and leaves a trail of blood behind him. Adrian goes up to Eleanor's bedroom and finds the girl's double. It is the core in which the soul of the young man's beloved is sealed. Adrian goes downstairs and sees that Lenia has come to the mansion and discovered Eleanor's body. Walter begins to suspect that Adrian killed his lover because of hatred. The girl claims that she was the best assistant for the dangerous criminal, unlike the Minister of Magic. After these words, Adrian again remembers the cruelty of his favorite girl. At this moment, the guy decides to keep the core with Eleanor's soul and at a convenient moment to make her weaker, so that she becomes at least a little weaker and kinder to him. Also, Noah learns from Adrian's personal diary that he stole the egg of the legendary Black Dragon, and Lenia was able to steal the egg from the young boy. Walter couldn't handle the dragon's power and decided to give it to the protagonist to take down Adrian. The protagonist decides to save the personal diary of the Minister of Magic and at that moment hears strange sounds from the neighboring room. It turns out that there was a very exhausted Lenia lying there. Eventually, the protagonist managed to heal Walter a bit and the girl regained consciousness. When Lenia got to her feet, the girl asked not to be left alone and Noah made the decision to go together. Suddenly, Adrian came out to meet the couple. The protagonist was greatly surprised by this, because she knew that the true Minister of Magic was on the first floor. The girl began to suspect that another puppet was coming to meet them. Noah plans to break the wall and get out, but suddenly realizes that the whole building is covered with a magical barrier, which will not allow it. Puck orders Lenia to run and find a way out, and she is left alone with Adrian's puppet. The man claims that the main weakness of the dragon is its mistress. If the guy takes possession of Noah's body, he will be able to manipulate Mew. At this time, Kyle and Mule find an inn that is on fire. The detective wants to enter it to help the protagonist, but a black dragon stops the man. At that moment, Lenia runs out of the building. Walter reports that Noah is fighting Adrian. Suddenly, they notice a powerful stream of magic that has been blasted through the ceiling of the inn. Seconds later, Kyle and Mew notice that Adrian has managed to grab the girl and pull her to the edge of a tall building. Renaud tries to stop the villain and fires his gun. Unfortunately, the magical barrier withstands primitive firearm attacks. At this time, Adrian tells the protagonist that he needs to get Eleanor's body. At this point, the girl grabs the young guy's hand and talks about how Asil never loved him. Adrian realizes this and then Puck claims that she is capable of loving him. After these words, the young man is perplexed and Mew attacks the villain. The pair fall down and Kyle rushes to Puck's aid. Fortunately for the protagonist, the young girl remains unharmed. At this moment, Renaud hugs Noah, tightly apologizing for his helplessness. To hide his emotions, the detective decides to check on Adrian's condition and goes to him. The Minister of Magic survived. Kyle claims that the man Noah fought is the true Adrian. The girl is perplexed and claims that the real Minister of Magic was apprehended on the first floor with the help of magic. After a while, the main characters are traveling on a train. It turns out that Renaud passed the order to Penelope to detain Adrian, who is in the capital. The girl misses the detective a lot. This time, Kyle decided to take a separate compartment and not interfere with Noah and Mew's rest. Despite this, late at night, the protagonist decided to go to the detective to meet him. Puck finds Kyle and they head to the main character's compartment. The detective wants to leave, but Noah convinces him to stay for a while. The main characters begin to have a conversation. It turns out that Renaud is still blaming himself for not being able to help in the fight with the powerful Adrian. Puck manages to comfort Kyle. The protagonists want to kiss, but suddenly, Mew wakes up and sees her mistress reaching for the detective. At that moment, the couple notices a cute little boy and stop. Mew realizes that he has disturbed the adults and starts pretending to be asleep. A confused Renaud says goodbye and is about to leave. At that moment, Noah remembers that she took Adrian's personal journal with her. When she pulled it out of her spatial vault, a piece of paper fell out of the book. When the girl picked it up, there was a magical reaction and the paper turned into a vessel containing the soul of Eleanor Asil. Dear friends, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. This is important to me.